Welcome to Fractions. It's our new unit and I'm really excited about it because fractions is really critical to your success and your future math career. I'd like for you to read through page 1 right now. So just pause the video, read that page, and really try to follow what's happening. And I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I'd like to draw your attention to this phrase that I highlighted in aqua right here. In algebra, it's much more common to work horizontally. If there's any possible way you can work your mathematics for fractions horizontally, it really is to your benefit because that is in your future. So I'm going to be working my problems horizontally throughout this unit. So you've read through this first one. I worked it two ways. Just wanted to point out this part at the bottom. You should be recognizing why you can't stop right here with 13 and 12 eighths. 12 eighths is improper. So since it's improper, my suggestion is first, instead of dividing 8 into 12, initially it's easiest if you look for a common factor and then simplify. So that's why I say ask if it's simplified. Well, 12 and 8 have 4 in common. So to get from here to here, we just divided 12 by 4 to get the 3, and 8 divided by 4 to get the 2. Then, once you get there, if your fraction is still improper, and it is, then you convert it to a mixed number. Remember, you divide 2 into 3, that gets you whole number 1. 1 is your remainder, 2 is your original dividend or denominator in this case. So 13 plus 1.5 is obviously 14.5. So that's a pretty simple one. Let's work some problems out together. First, the first couple have like denominators. So take a minute, pause the video, and try it. Okay, let's look at it together. If I were adding these together, it makes sense that I would have 7 plus 2, add the whole numbers, 5 6 and 5 6 is 10 6. Think of it as if you had 5 bananas plus 5 bananas, you'd still have bananas. So the sixth stays. The numerators get added. Well, 10 over 6, both of those are divisible by 2. Both divide by 2. If you can refrain from writing out in your work the divide by 2 on top and just think about it in your head, you'll be better off. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 10 divided by 2 is 5. You're not finished because 5/3 is improper, so keep the 9 and add this mixed number, which would be 1, because 3 goes into 5 once, with 2 remaining. So 2 over, keep the same divisor. And then 9 plus 1 is 10, and then you can just tack on the 2/3. Let's try number 4. Again, you have like denominators. These are the easiest kinds. So I've got 22 and 5. That's 27. 2 bananas plus 3 bananas is 5 bananas. Bananas in this case is 7. Well, there's no need for me to go any further because 5 over 7 is proper, and 5 and 7 have no common factors other than 1. So sometimes there aren't steps. You can go directly to your answer. Now, if the denominators are not like, that's when things get a little sticky. When they're not like, you have to force them to be like. It's like It's like you're trying to add apples and bananas now, and you can't do it. You have to make them all the same thing before you can put them together. So this box is really critical. What I've written here, if we can just rewrite 1/6 and 5/7 using the same denominator, we can do exactly what we did on the previous two problems, which was pretty simple. So the whole number doesn't change, but I'm going to have to rewrite that denominator. So I like to just write the whole number, write my fraction bar, and then look at 6 and 7 and ask myself, I really need the least common multiple between 6 and 7. Well, 6 and 7 only have a common factor of 1, so that means their product must be the LCM. And we often refer to the LCM with fractions as the LCD, or least common denominator. Even if you don't choose the least common denominator, if you get a common denominator, you can still get there. It will just require more simplifying, which makes the problem a little tougher. So now if we have to convert 1/6 into something here over 42, ask yourself, what do you do to this 6 to get 42? Well, you have to multiply by 7. So if you multiply the denominator of a fraction by 7, you would have to multiply the numerator by 7, because 7 over 7 is a 1. And multiplying a number by 1 keeps it the exact same. So my new numerator would be 7. I'm just writing this little times 7 times 7 to show you in the notes. Again, if you can avoid it in your work, it actually is a benefit to you. But I would put it in my notes so that you can remember where 7 came from. So on the second one, I've got a little more room over here. You ask yourself, what do you multiply by 7 to get this 42? Well, 6. So if you multiply the bottom by 6, you have to multiply the top by 6. So 5 times 6 would give us a 30. So these were our missing values. So now we can just go right back. Now the problem looks like the last one we did. 4 and 3 is 7. Keep our common denominator, and 7 plus 30 is 37. Hopefully from our last unit you recognize that 37 is prime. So 37 and 42 have no common factors other than 1, so it's simplified. So the rewriting or renaming 1/6 and 5/7 as 7 over 42 and 30 over 42 is really the skill that's most critical. Let's try another. I'm going to write this one again a little bit bigger, just so I can show my work a little bit better on this video. So there's my original problem. I look first and notice I have unlike denominators, 9 and 3, so I need to rewrite the 2/9 and the 2/3 having a common denominator. So I change 9 and 3 both divide into 9. So that means the first one can just stay the same. No work to do. On the bottom one, oops, sorry. I want to change that denominator to a 9. A really common mistake is a student will often they'll change it to a 9 and then they'll just keep this same denominator. But 2 out of 3 and 2 out of 9 is not the same. So remember, bear with me. Oh my gosh. Sorry, y'all. All right, here we go. Let's get this back. 7 2/3. So to get from this 3 to this 9, I'd have to multiply by 3. So I have to do the same on top. Again, 3 over 3 is 1, and it's a legal maneuver to multiply something by 1 without changing its value. If I multiplied the top by one number and the bottom by something else, I would not be keeping 2/3 the same value. So my new numerator is 6. Now I'm ready to add because I have like denominators. So 14 and 7 is 21. Keep the denominator. 2 and 6 is 8. Remember, it's like 2 apples plus 6 apples, that's 8 apples. 9 kind of representing my figurative apple there. 2 and 8/9. All right, got a couple more. If you want to try them on your own, great. Pause the video, do it, but really be careful about your steps. Show your steps like I'm doing. I'm showing you what my expectation is, and it's important for you to work down, it's important for you to box your answer, and it's important for you to give all your answers all the time in simplified form. So let's try number 7. I don't have the same denominator, so I've got 1 and something plus 2 and something, and 6 and 5 have no common factors other than 1, so I have to multiply them together to get their least common multiple. So it's 30. So just think this time, and I won't write it out, but 6 times 5 is 30. So I have to multiply the 5 on top by 5. So that's 25. If you get confused, you can always just work in reverse just a little bit. Look at the fraction that you've just written. If you look at the fraction that you've just written and you simplify it, like divide the top by 5, the bottom by 5, you'll see that you can go back to 5/6. Same thing with 4/5. I think of it like this. I say 5 goes into 30 6 times, and then 6 times 4 is 24. Now I'm ready to add. I was going to try to write my numerators in the same color. Appreciate your patience, kids. 25. There we go. Just so we can see, it's the 25 and the 24 that we need to add together. 1 and 2. Keep the denominator. 25 and 24 is 40, not 42. Using my mom's. 25 and 24 is 49. But when you get here, you would not leave it because 49 is improper. So I'm going to convert 49/30ths to a mixed number. It goes one time with 19 left over. Keep the denominator, and that gives me 3 plus 1, 4, and 19/30ths. 19 does not divide into 30, and it's prime, so I know that it's simplified. If you can go directly from this step to this one, that's okay. If you find that you're not being consistent with it, you're going to want to interject this step into your work. Okay, I do suggest you try this last one on your own and then come back to the video if possible. Okay, last one here, and then we'll review the steps. I don't have the same denominator, so I'm going to rewrite them. 6 and something plus 10 and something. Well, 7 goes into 14. That's good news. We can keep the 14 the same. So 7 into 14 goes twice. 2 times 6, 12. Again, look at your 12/14ths and just think, oh, if I divide the numerator and denominator both by 2, does it go back to being 6/7? And it does. So 6 and 10. Keep your denominator. 12 and 5. Don't stop here because 17/14 is 1 and 3/14. I'm adding them together. I get 17 and 3/14, which is simplified. Now, one thing I did not mention is oftentimes a student will want to add mixed numbers by converting everything into improper. But as I mentioned on the first page, if you convert everything into improper fractions and then get a common denominator and then add, there's an awful lot of simplifying that goes on, and it's just not necessary. It is not incorrect to write your answers as improper fractions as long as they are simplified. But since we're adding mixed numbers, it's just easier for me to leave my answer as a mixed number. So let's take a look at the rules down here. Just gave you some steps kind of to follow. So let's just review. We rewrote the fractions using a common denominator. That's when we found our LCM. We add the whole number part. We add the fraction part. And I noted here, remember, you're just adding the numerators, but keeping the denominator. Simplify if you can. If the fractional part is improper, convert it to a mixed number, and then add the whole number part. It's important to try to, this step right here, if you simplify the fraction part before you convert, it really does make life a little bit easier. So it's fractions. It's not that painful, even though people say they don't like fractions. Fractions really are friendly. And I want you to learn to be fierce with fractions. So as Nike says, and I love to say, just do it, kids. Have fun with your homework.